Welcome back, Bears Nation podcast. It is Thursday, not Wednesday, April 21st. We are a day later because Kevin Lapka requested humbly that we push back a day. I, of course, obliged. So here we are on Thursday, April 21st, the year of our Lord 2022, to talk about the Bears. We are exactly 1 week out from the draft. We could have pretended that we did this to be exactly 1 week from the draft, but that's not what we're about here. We're here to tell you the honest truth. The honest truth was Kevin Lapka needed another day, so we took another day. And now we are exactly 7 days from the NFL draft to see if the Bears can get Justin Fields and new coach Matt Eberflus. I hate how short this makes me look. Any kind of help. For everything coming out of OTAs, do they need some help? Evidently, and it's should we bring up the panic meter real quick, Kevin? As far as where the Bears are at right now?
Stop it.
As far as the scale of 1 to 10, I mean. Like, what should we do the panic meter right now?
Sure, let's do the panic meter.
Just quick, just for funsies. Just this little OTAs panic meter.
All right, you go first.
Okay, fine. All right, so for those of you that don't know, today Bears had some OTAs, did a couple practices, did some plays with the guys that are there. Obviously, a couple guys aren't there. A lot of this is all still voluntary. So you have a couple guys that aren't there. But apparently Justin Fields throwing interceptions left and right. Offense is not clicking. Passing game just can't get on the same page. And it's just a disaster, apparently. I saw Kevin Fishbane wrote uneven at best. So that's really great. Again, it's April 21st. Voluntary veteran minicamp. Not everyone's there. First time Fields and everyone is there. The offense is there with new coach, new system. Everything's new offensive line to an extent too. Tevin Jenkins now on the right side, Larry Borum on the left. Panic meter, Kevin. I mean, like it too. I mean, it's like it too. Is it not great? Is it not exactly what you want to hear for day one? Really, let's call it of the new regime. No, but things will get better. Bright side can only go up from here.
Okay, like the last thing I'm going to do on this show right now is be reactionary about things that happened on April 21st at OTAs. My panic meter, where I would put it, is a negative 1.4 million. Like, I do not give a shit. I don't care what anyone at Hallis Hall right now has to say. I love Nicholas Moriano and our guy Adam Hogue and Johns and all of our friends of the program who are there doing their diligence, reporting on what's going on at practice and what they've seen. I don't give a shit. And pardon my French, I don't care. It doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters. We're not going to sit here and talk for 10 minutes about how Justin Fields threw an interception at OTAs on April 21st. I'm not doing it. Now, it's our obligation to mention it, so we're doing our diligence by bringing it up, but that's all we're going to do. We're just going to bring it up for the sake of checking it off our agenda list that Jake and I have for today's show. And that's it. I mean, if you want to talk about it, make a positive about it, make the positive that, the defense is doing what Eberflus came here to do and get takeaways, be a ball hawking defense. If you want to take a positive away from it, it's that the defense looks good and they're doing that and they're playing fast. And, but again, I just know it. Get it out of here. I'm not going to talk about it. There's going to be people who write articles about it. There's going to be people who do, longer segments on their podcast episodes. Not here at Bears Nation Podcast. We, from the words of Stephen A. Smith, let me tell you right now, we don't care on April 21st. So that's where I'm at, Jake. My panic, I don't give a crap. I don't know if you you kind of agree with the two, but because it's not zero, you seem to have like a little bit of care for it.
Yeah, I mean, you care. I mean, obviously, the name of this podcast is Bears Nation Podcast. We do this for a reason. Of course we care. Obviously we are invested in this team and their success or lack thereof, mostly lack thereof over the last few years. And by a few years, I mean our entire lives. But obviously it's just obviously this is reactionary and it's year two of Justin Fields, and usually the year two quarterback leap is something that you hear, especially new regimes, stuff like that. But it's just when the first thing you read is, Bears passing game was shaky. It's like, okay, it's like the meme. Our expectations were low for you, but holy shit, like it's first day of 7-on-7s. But something that I did think was notable was Tevin Jenkins on the right and Larry Borom on the left. Your thoughts?
I mean, that's something that we deemed was possible, and I don't know if this is for sure. I think it's sort of an experiment, but I think it's where both players are more comfortable, I think. At least Jenkins on the right side. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them switching positions. It's what we saw from Tevin Jenkins on the left side wasn't anything that, said, look, alarm, he needs to move back to the right side. I just think he's a little bit more comfortable there, and Borom is more versatile, flexible player when it comes to the positions that he can play, that he can sit there on the left side. So I'm fine with that. I don't make a lot of it. I think it could be for the better, and at least have give yourself the time in OTAs to experiment with that. Now's the time to do it. So I'm on board with it for now.
I agree. I think if you're going to do this, it's best to do it right now. And I like that it's from day one, from the jump. Okay, right. Here we go. Larry Borom showed promise, showed flash, in week one and in mini camps last year on the left side before the Bears brought in Jason Peters, obviously. And then he switched to the right side and then dealt with injuries all year, which sucked for his development and for what we could see from him. But, the thing with Tevin Jenkins, I think Tevin Jenkins is a story here. Showed promise on the left side when he did get in at the end of the year a little bit. But was on the right side coming out of college. Left side was going to be a whole new thing for him. Clearly, something that the coaching staff, that Luke Getsy or the offensive line coaches, or maybe it's Matt Eberflus, somebody is seeing something that they're saying, okay, Tevin, actually, we think you're better on the right side, or we think your best spot is the right side. And Larry, we know you haven't played a lot of left, but you showed enough, and we think we can go from there. Again, I like that it's day one. Because a lot of the Matt Nagy era was this wishy-washy positional fluidity bullshit. And look where that got you. It was a lot of, Cody Whitehair is a beautiful example of that. Center, guard, back, forth. To quote Michael Scott, snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. Do you know what force vasectomies has on a man? That's what you get when in positional rotation. It's just, you're going to ask these guys to do too much and you stress them out, or you stretch them too thin. And then you see decline, which we saw with Cody Whitehair, right? Who we know is capable of playing at a Pro Bowl level, but when he doesn't know where he's playing week to week, things are not going to go well. So I like this. I like from the jump telling, especially these young guys, who don't have a lot of reps in the NFL, exactly where they're going to be, and doing it from day one. I think that's have a lot of benefits on the line, especially when it comes to Justin Fields.
You make a really good point, I think, about doing it now. There was a lot of, questions last training camp of, where is he going to play? At the time he wasn't able to line up in training camp, but there wasn't a definitive answer to what, those players, not both Borom and Jenkins, were going to play on the offensive line. It was well, he could play this, he could play that, he could do this, depending on, if a guy goes down. And if that happens, flexibility is still there if guys go down, and things may change in that aspect. But you're right that, hey, we're not 5 weeks into training camp saying, look, actually, you know what? We don't like what we've seen. Let's switch it back. You make that move now. And if you're wrong, you're in a more comfortable position because Jenkins has already played that position at the pro level against some of the best edge rushers in the world. So you are more comfortable going back to what Jenkins was used to this past year at left tackle. But, starting with what they have here at April 21st, at right tackle for Jenkins, who's the most comfortable, and that left tackle for Larry Borom, it makes the most sense to do it that way, and I like that they're doing it immediately. So you're 100% correct on that.
Yeah, it's good. I think, especially with the offensive line struggles you saw last year, it's definitely the right way to go about things. I'm not worried about Justin Fields or his development. Again, It's day one. It happens. But as this comment shows, Bears need help at wide receiver badly. Yes, this is something we've been hammering over and over and over, because a lot of the reports are Mooney's the only one he has chemistry with. Well, yeah, that's what's going to happen when you don't bring anybody in, and the only other person there really, essentially, is Daz Newsome. I would, it's not great. We know Mooney is Justin Fields' guy, but that definitely accentuates and highlights, the need that you have at wide receiver still. And yeah, sure, I'm sure eventually Byron Pringle will get into the mix and Equinemius St. Brown, but right now it's now we know why we've been talking about this all off season.
Yeah, we do. And people are going to point to those things when they hear those reports about Justin Fields. They're going to point to, hey, well, guess what? He has nobody to throw to. So, you got to fix it. And if again, I'm not going to be reactionary about the OTAs thing, but if you want to make anything out of it, it should be your, what's the light bulb inside your head that, hey, we need a wide receiver for Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus as they approach the draft just a week from today. Their pick will be a week and a day from today because they don't have a first rounder unless they move up, but they're probably not going to. So that light bulb should be going off in their head. Hey, look what we've seen in the first X days. How has it been? Like 3-4 days of OTAs, maybe?
Yeah, I think it started Monday or Tuesday.
Although it's just OTAs, it's like, hey, we need wide receivers. That has to be the priority. And I think that will be the priority. That will be their first pick in the second round, unless a certain player falls to them. And we'll get to that in the live mock draft simulation we're about to do. Do you want to do that right now, or do you want to hit on anything before that?
I think there was, do we want to hit on Deebo Samuel real quick?
We can touch on Deebo Samuel. So the rumors are, well, they're not rumors. It's confirmed that Deebo Samuel has requested a trade from the 49ers. And there was a few Twitter speculation, fake, real reports, we don't know, that said the Bears are interested. And, I don't think Deebo Samuel's at a point in his career where he's worth a first rounder. He's a younger player, but he hasn't proven to me that he's worth a first rounder. I think if you packaged a 3 and a 5 and maybe a 2.
You don't think Deebo Samuel's worth a first round pick?
No, I don't think Deebo Samuel.
He's an all-pro receiver, Kevin.
Yeah, he's an all-pro receiver who's done it for 1 year. He hasn't done it for a long period of time. He's a younger receiver who hasn't done it consistently. If you're looking at a player who is deserving of a first-round pick, that has to be a bona fide blue-chip player who's done it at least 3 years in a row. So
let's look at it this way. Let's do it this way. Of the receivers that are all asking for extensions, so that gives us Deebo, DK Metcalf, and Terry McLaurin. Are any of them
worth AJ Brown?
And AJ Brown. Are any of them worth a first-round pick?
I think DK Metcalf's the only one.
Really?
I think DK Metcalf has the ability to be the best receiver in a top 5 receiver in the NFL.
You don't think AJ Brown's worth a first-round pick?
I don't think AJ Brown's worth a first-round pick. If you have to, it's rare, Jake. It's rare you'll see a player like that, especially a receiver, be worth a first-round pick in a trade. Now, the interesting thing is
there's no precedent for it.
Exactly. That's what's interesting is this whole idea of trading all the, like, AJ Brown wants out, Deebo Samuel wants out. Players don't get traded in the third year of their career. It rarely happens. A player as good as those players, which is why we're sort of now we don't really know. There's no precedent. We don't know what.
No, they're in the fourth year. No, that's why this upcoming fourth year because they're in the final year and they want an extension.
Right, but still, like a player. Let's put it this way: a player on the rookie deal, as good as those players have been at that position, you don't see that a lot. Which is why I don't think a team is going to sit there and be like, look, we're going to give you a first rounder when we can maybe draft our own wide receiver in the first round, who's going to be on a smaller deal. And that's why I think they're not worth a first rounder is, look, you're going to get a rookie receiver on a first round, on a rookie deal if you're not trading away that first round pick. But if you are trading away that first round pick to get an AJ Brown or Deebo Samuel, you get AJ Brown and Deebo Samuel, who are first round talents, but you also bring with them $80 million contracts, at least. You want to know why? Because Christian Kirk from the Jacksonville Jaguars destroyed the whole market for wide receivers, and a number of them did. But Christian Kirk, and I think we talked about that on this show one time after that. We're like, yo, I'm glad the Bears didn't pay Christian Kirk 4 years, $75 million. That's why you have Deebo Samuel and AJ Brown sitting here saying, look, you're going to give Christian Kirk, $18 million a year. I deserve $25 million a year.
Yeah, right.
The market
if
is
not
skewed.
More.
So that's why, Deebo Samuel is a great player. I don't want them to trade for him because you get him, who's an all-pro receiver, but you also got to pay the guy
and arguably running back.
And arguably running back. So he's a great asset to have. I don't want to trade for him. I don't want to give up assets and pay him the $80 million when I think you could find a player very talented, multiple of them in the second and third rounds, and maybe even a first round next year if that's what they're asking for. So that's
would you, if you're the Bears, would you trade for any of these guys?
I wouldn't right now. And again, no, I wouldn't. I mean, they're not in a position to do it. I mean, we know what the Bears are looking to do right now. And then next year you're spending all the money. It doesn't align with the outlook right now. And that's, in my opinion, I'm not sitting here thinking, we immediately need to trade for, if we had no pick until a third round, or we had fewer picks. We didn't have the 2 second round. If we didn't have 2 second round picks, we only had 1. Things would change. I think they can find some really talented first round talent in the second round at wide receiver that makes me more content with their situation instead of saying, hey, we have nothing. Let's just give it all away for Deebo Samuel. So where are you at with that?
Well, see, the first problem with this is that the Bears don't have a first round pick. To even,
but again, I don't think he's going to go. I don't think they're going to go for it. But
somebody, if you're somebody with if you're Miami with 1 million first round picks, or if you're Philadelphia with 1 million first round picks over the next 3 years, you're not going to give up one of those for Deebo Samuel.
No, I think I can get Chris Olave for 4 years, who could be just as good.
If you're Philadelphia, think of all the first round picks they have. They have 2 this year, 2 next year. I think 2 the year after that.
Well, Philly just sucks at drafting in the first round. So
I agree. I agree. But I mean, if you're Philly and you could get Chris Olave and Deebo Samuel, especially if you don't think Jalen Hurts is the guy who can do all of it on his own, like, you're making that trade for sure. Even Miami has a bunch of picks too. If you compare Tyreek with Deebo and Tua, it's a cakewalk. Especially because Tua can't throw more than 10 yards down the field. So you need someone like Deebo who can take it out of the slot or the backfield and break something open for you. And again, this is getting off topic because, the Bears aren't going to have the assets to even pull off something like this.
That's not true, though. That's why I'm telling you it's not. I don't want them to do it, but I'm telling you that's not true.
See, I just don't think, not even that the Bears don't have a first-round pick, it's just you don't have picks. Like, we've talked about this for how many weeks? The Bears just don't have picks.
A lot of picks, right? Volume.
The Bears, Ryan Poles is not in a position to send San Francisco 2 to 3 picks in varying rounds, in varying years even, just to get Deebo Samuel. Because let's face it, you're staring down the barrel of a rebuild right now. So if you're Ryan Poles, you need to get more. Because if you're Ryan Poles, look at what Ryan Pace's idea of, okay, we're going to trade these picks, kick the can down the road. Look where that got you. That got you hired. That got your predecessor fired and you hired. So if I'm Ryan Poles, I'm thinking, okay, I want to hang on to these picks. I want to get more if I can, because I got to get as many shots at this as possible. I have the quarterback, and now I need everything else.
Yeah. And and for that reason, they're not trading for Deebo Samuel. I mean, that's where I stand. It's just
this. You know what? You know how this ends?
How does?
I hate this.
What?
This ends with the Vikings getting Deebo or one of those receivers. Think about it. They have Thielen already, who is not a superstar receiver, but he's a good receiver, a top 25 receiver, top 20. Thielen,
sure,
probably.
No, actually, no. I'm sorry, he's not a top 32 receiver in the league.
Come on,
Adam Thielen.
Okay, fine. We're agreed that Adam Thielen is not your bona fide number.
Yeah.
Well,
they got Jay Jettas, so
we'll put it that way. He's a good receiver.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. How did I forget about it? Okay, so think of it this way. You have Kirk Cousins, who is a guy who puts up stats. Mm-hmm. He has the volume. He has the numbers. Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll move on. You have a superstar running back and a very, very good running back in Alexander Mattison backing him up. You have Justin Jefferson, who is awesome, stud. Maybe not a superstar, but he's he's
a superstar. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm fine with co-signing that. Then you have Adam Thielen, who's an above-average number 2 option. I mean, if I'm them, I trade Thielen, trade Madison. Like, you have,
if you trade,
like, you have an overflow of quantity here.
Right.
If you could trade Deebo or DK or AJ Brown or even Terry McLaurin with Justin Jefferson, and I'm not the biggest Kirk Cousins guy. I'm a huge Kirk Cousins
you're notorious for that on this show.
That's what I'm saying. I'm notorious everywhere for saying that Kirk Cousins is not nearly as good as he is. A very, very average guy who just gets volume that boosts his numbers. Anyway, Not the point. I mean, if you're the Vikings and if you think you have a window here with because Kirk Cousins is still they
think they have a window. That is for sure.
I mean, Kirk Cousins, I will say he's a top 25 quarterback, probably more than likely. Maybe even the top 20, but regardless, he's a starting caliber quarterback who can perform. Does he choke in the big moments? More often than not, yes. Mm-hmm. But you have a great wide receiver, a great running back, and then volume elsewhere that you can kind of trade from.
That would scare me. It would scare me a little
bit.
New
regime that maybe they think they can be a playoff team right off the bat.
They do. They gave him the extension for a reason. They gave Kirk Cousins the extension for a reason. They believe that they can win with him. And if they have that belief, maybe they'll pull the trigger. So I think you're right. But let's do this live mock draft simulation here. But first, let's take a break now, courtesy of Palma Brand. They are the premier clothing brand based out of State Chicago, delivering you comfortable, high quality, and stylish clothes you absolutely need for the upcoming summer season. And Palma brand offers tank tops for that warmer weather we're getting this weekend, bucket hats, t-shirts, shirts, hoodies, and caps with various logos and designs that will fit any style. I wear my shirts all the time, and I will definitely be busting out this week when we get that 80-degree weather here. That's going to be awesome. Can't wait to wear my tank top. This weekend, the soft material, that snug fit, that slims the body. Maybe I'll take it to the beach. You know what I mean? Palm brand gonna get me right. But first-time customers will receive wristbands, and anyone who uses the code BNP, that's code BNP, will receive 15% off on their order. So don't be missing out this summer and this weekend on the chance to be styling your way through the Tri-City or wherever you live. We have listeners that come from London. We have
Columbus, Ohio.
From Columbus, myself. We have people from all over the country, all over the world who listen to the show. So style your way through your city with Palmer brand. Get hooked up. Use code BNP. Let's do it, Jake. Mock draft simulation, man. We have so much fun with this. It is.
Last year.
We did it last year, and I can't remember last year. Did we mock Justin Fields in that? I feel like we didn't.
You did. I think we did
it as a team. We did it as a team.
Well, we did our first round of ours, I think. Is what happened, and then we did a full one.
Okay.
So you at one point or another, you were making the case for the Bears jumping up for Justin Fields. You had him as high as 8, but
right.
Regardless.
I think okay. So this is back when Chris Nana was on the show, and I think we did. Shout out Chris Nana. We did collaborate on that on one, just like we're about to do right now. And I think we mocked. Actually, you and Chris were not wanting to trade up for Justin Fields, or he wasn't available or something to do it when we were using our simulation. And I think we actually mocked Rashad Bateman to the Bears. That obviously ended up not happening. But let's do this now. We're going to do all the rounds. And, I'll preface it with this. Like, Jake and I are busy people. I'm not going to be able to give you the best scouting report with the 7th round guys.
We had more time on our hands a year ago.
Yeah, to say the least. So we're going to give you everything with 2nd round and 3rd round. That will be chock full of analysis. But, latter half of the 5th round, that 2nd, 5th round pick and the 7th round, it's going to get a little.
We're going to do our best. We're going to do our
best. All right.
You care about the 2nd and 3rd round more anyway. That's what we did. So
be honest, majority of fans aren't watching the 5th round of the draft live on NFL Network. You're waiting for the notification to come up on your phone, and then you're doing a little research and reading Twitter.
Waiting for Hogue and everyone to
Hogue,
do,
and somebody to say, hey, this guy is the next Darnell Mooney, because that's the comparison we're going to make every time for a bona fide player that you get in the later rounds. We will be using PFF. Again, if you're listening to this on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get our podcast, you might hear a few things that are like, well, what are you talking about? It's because we have it showed up on the screen. So again, you can watch us live on YouTube Wednesdays at 7 Central. I know this is Thursday, but we are displaying this live on YouTube. So if you hear a few things that you're like, well, where did that come from? It's because there's some things on the screen, but we're going to do our best here to tailor to both the viewers who are watching live on YouTube right now and our beloved listeners who have been with us since day one. As Jake pours a drink. What are you pouring, Jake?
I'm lighting a candle.
Oh, he's lighting a candle. It definitely looked like you were pouring a drink. That will be saved for after the show from Mr. Hasan. I can guarantee you that. All right, let's enter the draft. Let's do it. Again, we have
Kevin, are we gonna do trade? Like if Olave slides till in this draft, let's say 28 or 29, are we gonna attempt it? Like, are we just going straight through, or are we just just burning through it?
We can see. Let's see. We can try a trade if we want. So let's bump up the speed on this a little bit. Start draft. So again, we're going through the 1st round now, starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we have no control over any of these things that are occurring here in the 1st round. The Lions just took Sauce Gardner. I don't know if they're going to take a cornerback in the top 3 again after what happened with Jeff Okudah a few years ago. I think they'd be wise.
He could still be good.
He could still be good, but I think they'd be wise not to do that again. Kyle Hamilton at 10 to the Jets. The first wide receiver off the board to the Washington football team at 11. Drake London, back-to-back. 3 wide receivers in a row. 3 wide receivers in a row.
London to the Vikings would be scary. I would not
and
love
here,
that.
This is where I think Chris Olave is going to get taken to the Eagles right here at 18. Nope. So okay.
So we'll see. So pause this for a second.
Okay,
so go up for a second. Malik Wells was the first quarterback taken, right?
Yeah, Malik Wells at 16.
At 16. So that's surprising because a lot of people think that Pickett is not going to make it past the Panthers or the Falcons, which is, I mean, I could
or
see
Willis.
it.
I mean, I think it's a toss.
Right, or Willis, right.
First there.
Agreed.
So, but I think the interesting thing here that obviously, like, if you are a Bears fan watching the draft a week from today, just because you're a fan of the NFL and you're going to watch, like we're all going to watch the draft, although the Bears don't have a first round pick, you're obviously looking at the quantity of wide receivers taken in the first 32 picks. That's the only thing you're looking for if you're the Chicago Bears. Not only for the absolute pipe dream that Chris Olave could fall out of the first round, but also you don't want a guy like George Pickens or Jahan Dotson, or if you're a lover of Sky Moore, to go up into the first round because so many wide receivers were taken before, say, like pick 26. So when you look at a mock draft like this right now, and you look at pick 11, Washington football team, Garrett Wilson, pick 12, Minnesota, Drake London out of USC, and then pick 13, Jameson Williams out of Alabama to the Texans, 3 straight wide receivers. If you see that on draft night, if you're a Bears fan, I mean, you're shitting your pants, are you not?
I disagree. I think if you're a Bears fan, you love how this is going for you because only one quarterback taken, and he wasn't until 16. Because think about it, like Willis is the first one. Pickett's still going to go. Ritter is probably, could sneak into the first round as well for a team that wants to get that extra 5th-year option. And then, like, you could even see a 4th one sneak in there. So how this is shaken out so far, I think if you're a Bears fan, this is exactly what you want because there's a chance that a Chris Olave falls more into tradable range, or someone like Jahan Dotson falls to the 2nd round.
So it's weird because you've been talking a lot about how the quarterbacks affect this. Tell me more about why you think the quarterbacks have such an effect on what happens with the Bears.
Well, look at the Justin Fields effect.
You just think that run on quarterbacks happens? Or?
Right. I mean, look at what happens when guys are Trey Lance going 3rd right after Zach Wilson. Like that started a domino effect. Okay, Mac Jones and Justin Fields are started. Okay, then the Lions didn't take him. Okay, then the Panthers didn't take him. Okay, now as these guys start to slide and other teams are like, okay, these guys are getting in tradable range. And this is where the Bears really are in a very, very advantageous position. You have your guy. You're good for the next 2 to 3 years at least. We hope longer, obviously, but for at least this year and the next, if not the next 2 after this season, you're good. You don't have to be in that position where you're sweating. You're like, okay, like everyone admits and acknowledges that this quarterback class is not very good. It's not good at all. It's not, there isn't a Trevor Lawrence. There isn't even a Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. There isn't someone who you're dying to take. Everyone's like, yeah, Kenny Pickett, okay, he could be good. Okay, Malik Wells, yeah, he put up big numbers, but it was at Liberty. Desmond Ridder, okay, Cincinnati. Matt Corral kind of showed something, but then he fell apart. Like
you make a good point.
Anyway, it's like, but there are still these teams where if you're going to take a shot on one of these quarterbacks, if you're the Falcons at the end of the round and Desmond Ridder sitting there, that 5th year is very prioritized among teams because it means a lot because that's one less year that you have to pay for in a quarterback's prime. It happened with Lamar Jackson with the Ravens. He was sitting there in the last pick of the first round. They said, all right, we got to get this guy now and get that extra option here. So I think at this point, when there's only one quarterback taken, you're going to see teams start to get antsy, especially like the Steelers at 20.
I see where you're coming from now.
Like I would be very surprised.
Come on, Jake.
The Steelers at 20, or if they like don't be, like watch, it'll be Pickett right now.
Come on. Let's see. So the question too, we're paused here for those listening here with the Saints who have yet to pick at pick 19. Chris Olave is not on the board, or is on the board. He's not still off the board yet. He's still on the board. And the question is really for Bears fans, when would you be comfortable making that trade? And I think it would have to be past 25. I'm not giving up enough assets to get up to 19. That's going to require a lot. It would have to be a significant fall. But let's resume and see what happens to the Saints here at 19. And they're going to take Olave. So in a majority of mock drafts, I will say before we move on, I've seen Olave go in the top 20. Now, the only scenario that I could see happening is a mirror of what happened in 2018. Well, I think it was 2018 with Justin Jefferson and Jalen Reagor, where for some reason, someone loves something about Jalen Reagor. In that case, it was the Philadelphia Eagles, or in this case, someone loves something about God knows who, Pickens, right? And says, oh, we really like the raw athleticism of Pickens. Let's take him. And then Chris Olave falls. In that case, you might be in a position around 25 to move for him, but not at 19 or 20.
Sure.
It's too early. So let's move on, though. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because I think we were kind of just waiting there to see what happened to Olave. And now we'll get a little bit quicker up to 39 where the Bears
see. And now here's the thing. Like, this doesn't have any like trades happening. Like, this is, and there's Kenny Pickett to the Lions, like at the end of the round there.
Oh, there's
like,
Treylon
there
Burks.
goes Treylon Burks.
The Jets, and Pickens taking to the Jets at 38. Before us at 39.
You're taking Jahan Dotson here.
So
you have to.
You have to. But I will make the case for one player that I did a lot of research on that I'm starting to really, really like. But he does play defense. That player would be Jalen Petrae. Jalen Petrie, I don't know if it's Petrie or Petrie. I can see Matt.
I could get on board with that.
Loving Jalen Petrie. You remember Kenny Moore from the Colts?
Sure.
He is exactly what Jalen Petrie would be for the Chicago Bears. Kenny Moore played sort of that safety slot corner role for the Colts, blitzed really well. That's exactly what Jalen Petrie is. He can line up anywhere in the box. He's a coverage, but he's a coverage defender, but he's also an edge rusher. Some people have him listed as safety. PFF has him listed as cornerback. It's because he can do both. He's a ball hawk. He's a very good blitzer. He's kind of like a Jamal Adams in that sense as far as the versatility that he can play, who was a 2021 Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, but he does primarily play in slot. I think he's exactly what Matt Eberflus would want, but the age-old question for the Bears, at least the month-old question, has been, would you be comfortable abandoning offense with that first-round pick? If it's a player as good as Jalen Petrie, I might be comfortable doing that.
I mean, in this situation, so like go to the wide receivers real quick. So who's available in this situation.
Let's filter.
Because obviously you have a pick here 9 picks later. Mm-hmm. I mean, at this point, it just depends on how you rate. Like, if you're the Bears, if you're right, like, because I'm with you, I could totally see Matt Eberflus banging the table saying we need Petrie. There's like, especially if you're saying, all right, we believe in Brian Pringle and we believe in Equinome St. Brown, so we can
don't believe in them.
Well, but regardless, saying like, let's say that we think that we can do something with John Mechie or Christian Watson in the 3rd round, or we think we could get Ross in the 4th or 5th, or in the 3rd. And Petrie's not going to come around. There's not another Petrie in this draft. They might be saying, okay, there's another Jahan Dotson or Jalen Tolbert later in this draft that we can get. There's not another Petrie. So you know what? If we want to take Petrie here, I think I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with it too, because what's interesting here, actually, in every mock draft simulation, every mock draft ever, the ADP is different. Certain players have, or certain people have players going higher or lower. This one's really weird. That PFF has Jalen Tolbert ranked ahead of Jahan Dotson, but Jahan Dotson's ADP is 38. His average draft position is 38. He hasn't been taken. Christian Watson's ADP is 52. So if you see a situation where, like, the thing I'm looking at right now, when I'm looking at, for the listeners on the podcast, what we have available at 39 is Jalen Tolbert out of South Alabama, Jahan Dotson out of Penn State, John Mechie out of Alabama, Christian Watson, of course, Calvin Austin, Alec Pierce, and those guys are available a little bit further down as far as their ADP goes. I think because you have 9 picks apart from each other, like, regardless of what happens, if you're telling me you could either get Jalen Tolbert, Jahan Dotson, or Christian Watson at 48,
you're going to have a chance. Yeah,
I'm
there's
content
value
with any of those guys at 48. But I think you're right about, look, you might not find another Jalen Petrie later. You can find a Justin Ross in the 4th round. Let's go with Jalen Petrie, which is so funny because if you listened to this podcast a week ago, you would have thought there's no way in hell we're taking a player aside from wide receiver. We're going Jalen Petrie at 39. And I'm pretty damn happy about it. And you have to remember, like, you got to find these players.
Yeah, and then 2 quarterbacks just went. Like, you're still going to have – there you go. I mean, Jahan Dotson went to the Vikings, which, I mean –
scares me. I think he's
that's probably not going to happen, though. If they take – because they took what's-his-face in the first round.
They don't need 2 wide receivers, and the Vikings –
That's not going to happen.
Drake London. Right.
Yeah, there's no shot. You have Jefferson and Thielen, and you have London. You're not taking Jahan Dotson there.
But I will say, I don't think, like, regardless of who took him in the mock draft, I don't think Jahan Dotson falls to 48, which is
I agree.
Which is the risk you run when you take a cornerback like we did. is, maybe the guys you really want, maybe, people are super high on Christian Watson. Oh shit. Maybe the Seahawks take Christian Watson, and
but this is exactly what I mean when I talk about the quarterbacks. Because I mean, look at the Seahawks take Howell and the Falcons take Ritter here.
Right.
I mean that drops some of these guys. I mean that drops Dotson and the Vikings. Mm-hmm. Like it's going to have an effect. Like the quarterbacks and how much people, front offices like or dislike these guys is going to have an effect on this draft. That begs the question: do we want to Because I think you have to go receiver here. I don't think you can
because we know about the. Go ahead.
No, so it's just do you go with Tolbert? Do you take the swing on Watson? Like, do you go with the upside of Watson? I think maybe. The thing is, I don't know how much wiggle room to have to take a swing on upside here, which is why I made the argument last week of waiting for Ross until maybe the 4th round.
So. Yeah, and you make a really good point because until we played this out in the simulation, I didn't really think about this. Like, I don't love Christian Watson. I don't love Jalen Tolbert. I almost like John Mechie more than both of them as far as the value you would get from where you get them. But the risk or the problem that plays out is, okay, we know the ability and we like Calvin Austin, who could be there in the 3rd round with the 3rd round pick. We like Justin Ross, who we know could be available in the 5th round potentially, or in the 4th round if they trade down. Will you be willing to take the risk of, hey, we don't love Tolbert or Watson. Let's go interior offensive line and hope and pray to God Calvin Austin is there in the 3rd round and hope one of the other wide receivers falls to us. Will they be willing to take that risk? Well, that is the by far biggest position of need. I don't know. So that's the age-old question. I've said that twice now in this episode. Position of need or best player available. Like, do you reach or do you take the risk on a Watson or a Tolbert who, played at smaller schools, who haven't done it at the highest level, just because you need a wide receiver? What do we do?
And do you think you get Mechie later? Yeah. Who's on the board for offensive linemen still? Inner offensive lineman, because you're not going to take a tackle here.
Yeah, let me go inner offensive. I don't think they're taking a tackle at all until the 5th round. Dylan Parham is available, who's a name that
I have heard. Cole Strange is a name that I've heard a lot.
Those guys are projected to be
right. They're not projected for this high.
I think if you are thrust into this situation like we have here, you have to take wide receiver regardless. I'm sorry. I think you have to. I really, really do. I mean, Jake, my outlook on the draft coming into this is at least 2 wide receivers throughout the whole thing. And I think you run thin on that if you don't take one now. I think they have to. And I think in this case, Watson's the best of the 3. I think John Mechie is the best of the 3. But there's the injury concerns about John Mechie, which make it more of a risk to take at 48. And his ADP is 71.8. I think Watson is the play at 48 if that happens.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Mechie, you need someone who is going to be healthy and be out there. As much as I'd love to take the swing on upside, you kind of got to cap it at one point. So I think Watson, people love Watson.
The athleticism is supreme.
It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Let's go with Watson.
All right. We're taking Christian Watson at 48. So the Bears have now, or us, we are Ryan Poles, Jake and I are. We have just snagged Jalen Petrae, cornerback from Baylor, and wide receiver Christian Watson. If you have opinions on our picks, shoot us a DM on the Instagram and on the Twitter, Bears Nation Podcast at Instagram and Bears Nation Pod on Twitter, or send us an email, bearsnationpodcast@gmail.com. If you hate what we just did, as we approach the 3rd round pick here, pick number 71, the Bears have it. And we just took a wide receiver, but we know about some of these other wide receivers that we like in these rounds, that being Calvin
Austin's still there.
Justin Ross, whose ADP is 76.7. There are the Alec Pierce lovers. I am not one of them right now. That could change. I would not be upset going back-to-back wide receivers here with Calvin Austin. I would not. What are your opinions? Do they need another position, that being most likely interior offensive line?
Yeah, I would probably go lineman here and then hope that, because the way that this is dropping a little bit, the fact that Austin's still here at 71, the fact that Kevin Austin is still there, the fact that Ross is still there.
The fact that Pierce is there. People think Pierce is an early second rounder. People
love Pierce. Yeah. So I think you take offensive line here. I think that you have a shot to get a good wide receiver like a Ross in the next round.
Well, the problem you face here in the third round is you don't get another pick until the fifth round.
Oh,
so
true.
That's where you talk about the potential of the Bears trading down. I think if you saw that right here in the third round and you say, let's just trade down maybe to 78 with the Browns or 79 with the Chargers, 77 with the Vikings, collect potentially a fourth round pick or another fifth, and then, I don't know. Then you have that third round pick at 79 plus a fourth rounder and an early, and then you'd have 3 fifth rounders just to trade down 7 spots. I think this would be the spot to do it. What do you think?
I mean, it depends on how far you want to move down.
I think if you trade, so here, you're not going to trade with the Vikings at 77. You're just not going to do it.
Won't you? Why not? In this late, it's not like it's the first or second.
I don't think you would want to trade with the division rival if that division rival is on the phone with you saying, "Hey, we really like Calvin Austin," or "We really like someone else." I would prefer. PFF here has the Giants as interested at 81, which would be 10 slots lower than your third round pick at 71. So they would trade. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. The Bears would trade 71, and they would get in return 81 and then 112, which would be that's in the fourth round. And that's funny. That pick is from the Bears
so you get your own pick back.
You'll get your own pick back via and let's say we'll give them a 7th rounder.
No, why?
Okay, we'll try. Because this trade, if you're watching this trade, is a 76% chance. This was accepted. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So we just traded down. We traded down to 81 with the Giants. Let's resume the draft. The Bears have a good chance of still getting a good interior offensive lineman, and they've acquired a 4th round pick, which could be prime for our guy, Justin Ross. Dylan Parham just went. Calvin Austin just went. Alec Pierce just went.
Now here's the run on wide receivers.
Here's the run on wide receivers. So this is where you take interior offensive lineman, and this might be the spot where you take Cole Strange.
I agree. He's got good size. I know coming from Chattanooga, people are like, but if that's, 6'5", 305, like that's a man right there. Like you need someone who can just absolutely maul guys that he's going against.
Yeah, PFF talks about his elite explosiveness for interior offensive linemen.
Which remember, that's what Pohl said he wanted. He wanted athletes, guys that were quick, guys that can move. So that's going to be something. I'm good with taking Strange here.
This feels surgical. I feel like we were just very surgical with what we did. So we're going to take Cole Strange here at 81. So the positive now is you have now fulfilled your top 3 position of needs. And I think at this point, you can go for a sort of, I think wide receiver is still position of need as we approach that pick 112 that we acquired from the Giants. But you're more comfortable, just taking really good players at these points, guys who fell, guys who are really good, whether that be safety, whether it be edge, linebacker, you're comfortable just taking guys here. So the interesting thing here,
David Bell just won at the end of the third round. Bell just went.
Justin Ross has to be available. All right, 4th round, pick 112. This has to be our guy, Justin Ross.
I think so too.
It has to be. So
I think so too. With an average ADP of in the 70s, and you get him in the 110s, I agree. I think we might be biased because we're really into Justin Ross. We have been if you've been listening to the show. Like, I think you got to take it. That was fun. I think it's Ross here. If he's available, it's Ross.
It has to be Ross. And it's like the note card from that movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner. Have you seen that movie?
No, Kevin, because I value my time.
Great movie, but there's it's a famous meme. He goes through this whole thing, and he thinks about drafting all these different players. But on that little post-it note he wrote on the beginning of draft night was it's this guy, the guy in the movie, no matter what. For us, it's Justin Ross, no matter what. Even if you think it's a little bit lofty to take him.
I think this is a great spot to get him. You were making the case last week for him in the 2nd round.
I was. Now it's just weird because like again, the injury history is what is going to cause him to fall. And there's going to be people who, when they see this, if the Bears do end up taking Justin Ross in the 4th round, who are saying, was it worth the risk that you run? I think it is worth the risk that you run because this could be a 1st round talent. And we talked about that all last episode. If you want to hear a breakdown of Justin Ross, it's also on our Instagram. We did sort of a little clip on that. He has the potential, if healthy, if that explosiveness and full speed is still there, to be a 1st round talent. That is the guy Jake and I will die on the hill for in the 2022 NFL draft. And we're going to take him.
And even if you don't want to go back and listen, a quick synopsis is like Justin Fields is your priority right now. Right. Putting Justin Fields in the best position to succeed is your priority, especially if you're Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles. Justin Fields is the best chance for you to keep your jobs 5-6 years down the line. You know,
they know that
you have to take this. Like you took a wide receiver earlier, you do it again. You double down because you don't know what Byron Pringle and Equanimeous St. Brown are. Like I said earlier in this episode, a couple minutes ago, you have Justin Fields. Everything else is just about that.
Right. Yeah, and that was the approach to this draft was, look, we're to the offseason. We have to put Justin Fields in the best position possible. They have the ability to do that here. I think Justin Ross is looking at the other players on the board who might be available. Cal Phillips, UCLA, Danny Gray, SU, Romeo Doubs, Nevada, Kevin Austin Jr., who's kind of your guy from Notre Dame. I still think Justin Ross is the best of all of them. And it's not even close.
He has the most upside, no doubt.
And the gap between him and the next best guy after him, Josh Johnson, could be the biggest gap of all time. Let's take Justin Ross at 112. All right. So we have 3 picks remaining. I'll move this a little bit faster because we're getting to those 5th round picks. But again, at this point, so you have 2 wide receivers, an offensive lineman. You have Jalen Petrae, cornerback, Christian Watson, wide receiver, Cole Strange, offensive lineman, and wide receiver that we just took, Justin Ross. This is a point where now you have a back-to-back. You have 2 picks here. You have 148, and then you don't have a back-to-back. You have 148, then you have Panthers at 149, then you have the Bears again at 150. What's the approach here? Is this where you maybe take, Jake, hear me out, is this where you maybe take a running back? Because David Montgomery is entering a contract year next year in which he will not get an extension. He will not get the contract he's looking for from the Chicago Bears. Do they try to get that guy to pair with Khalil Herbert? 2 players on a rookie contract for the next 3 years. If they drafted a running back, I would not rule out the possibility of Bears going running back with either of these 5th round picks.
Yeah, I still think you need to address DB just because you're so thin there. I mean, I don't hate the idea of going running back because this is David Montgomery's 4th year, yes?
Yep. So he's going. So this is his
final
next year will be the contract year.
This is his final year. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't hate the idea. I still think that knowing that you have David Montgomery there, you're good for this year, and Khalil Herbert, you feel good enough about to get you to the next draft. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's not super necessary unless you love someone, unless there is someone where you're like, okay, this guy, he's way too low. We think he can be a starter eventually. Because this is the league now. I mean, running backs are a dime a dozen. Running backs, you can pick them off the street for nothing. And, you know, I mean, look at where half the running backs in the league came from. I mean, they were late round picks or free agent acquisitions. Like it's, you know, they were signed off the street. It's, I mean, Raheem Mostert was one of those prime examples of that. And he's hurt all the time. But regardless, I digress. I don't think you have to. I mean, I think you have to go DB still. I like it. That's just such a thin room, especially with guys who are always hurt too.
Okay. I agree with you, but I do think running back in the 7th, maybe obviously undrafted, is something you have to look at. Among the players available for us here at 148 are Josh Jobe, Jalen Watson, Deron Blandon, and Caleb Evans. Josh Jobe is a player who here his ADP is 123.8. The Bears are picking at 148. I think this could be a player who's a little bit older. He has experience from Alabama. The problem is, when I mentioned a little older, he's a lot older. He's 24. What would you feel like getting a Josh Jobe or any of the other guys here? Darion Kendrick from Georgia is a name that I like. Sean Jolly from Appalachian State. You're dead set on corner. Who do you like at 148?
Yeah, I think you're probably going to take a swing on, you know, an SEC, either Jobe or, you know, Kendrick here because, you know, it's not Toledo. It's not Appalachian State. Like it's no disrespect to those guys. You want to know that they've gone against that kind of hired. And if you're going to take a swing, maybe that's where you take the swing. And again, like we said at the beginning of this, we have not done deep dives on all these guys. Like, I don't know, like Sue me. I don't know that much about Sean Jolly and Appalachian State's defense. I don't. It's just what my
eyeballs. You don't know a lot about Deron Bland from Fresno State, Jake.
Exactly. Like, sorry, sue me, but I would lean more towards someone coming from Alabama or Georgia's defense, just because we know they have success there.
I really like Darion Kendrick. I do. We have I Am Scotts in the chat saying he really likes Jalen Watson from Washington State. But the thing that you always like to see from players, and that's listed here for PFF, is the production that they have in the biggest moments in the biggest games. And here, 2 interceptions versus Michigan in the semifinal, 0 catches allowed from 3 targets versus Alabama in the national championship. Granted, that Alabama team in 2021 national championship did not have Jameson Williams or John Mechie, so if you want to look at it that way. But Darion Kendrick is also 21. He's not 24. I would be fine taking Darion Kendrick here. He's also could be available at 150, but that would be. But okay, so would you take back-to-back cornerbacks? Do you take, because when you have picks so close to each other, you start to think like,
I think you take another lineman.
Get that guy.
I think you go DB and lineman here.
All right, so let's just go Darion Kendrick for the hell of it, and then we'll go one more IOL here. Let's see who's available for them. Joshua Williams, we got the Joshuas, Joshua Azidu and Leicester Smith from Virginia Tech, the top 3. I like Leicester Smith. He's a guy that I think is pretty solid. Who do you like among the 3? Do you care? Do you even know Joshua Pazabra?
I mean, 6'3", 314. That's a big boy.
So if you got Cole Strange and Leicester Smith, you got some big guys, man, who are coming in.
Fine with me. I mean, the thing is, you need linemen. Like, you just need bodies here at this point. Like, you need younger guys that you can control for the next 3-4 years, because right now it's a very patchwork offensive line. Right. Like, you just need bodies at this point.
And again, you talk about faster more athletic players and more explosive players across the board, offensively and defensively for the Bears. Leicester Smith was a tight end before transitioning to guard. His weight may not reflect that at 14, but you talk about that style of athleticism on the line, and he sort of plays with that. Let's go Leicester Smith, and then should we just pick the guy with the coolest name? We might have to, and might have to. I'm dumb. I keep saying 7th round pick. Pick 7 in the 6th round. Pick 7.
All right. So what do you go here?
I think.
Do you just go best player available? This might be a chance where you take a running back.
That's what I'm saying.
Quandre White's a pretty cool name.
Khalil Herbert was in the 6th round, was he not?
Yes, I believe so. I believe he was. So this would be back-to-back years taking a running back in the 6th round, and I'm totally okay with that. I really like Hasan Haskins from Michigan, but he would be sort of a reach. I don't know. His ADP is 175. His rank on PFF is 189. Hasan Haskins scored 5 touchdowns against Ohio State in the most important game for that team. Works for me.
Very, very long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You remember that? I mean, I do. Now you'll remember Hasan Haskins.
6'2", 230. Good Lord.
And he's also a very good receiving back.
You know, we haven't taken any Big Ten guys. Let's do it.
We got to take a Big Ten guy.
We deserve it.
And again, we're taking Hasan Haskins here. That rounds out our draft. And before we recap it, I'll say, back to the point, this is very, very important to remember, and no one's talking about it, is the fact that we will hit on every time this show. Running backs aren't getting paid. Dave Montgomery isn't going to get paid. He's just not. And that's the opinion that Jake and I have. And it's a pretty valid opinion when you look at the historical evidence of the NFL in recent years. So they might take a running back for that reason. If you don't want to bank on Khalil Herbert and an undrafted guy and Darrington Evans as a PFF ad comes onto the screen before we get our full results, then you got to take somebody in the 6th round. So let's recap the draft that we just did. Jake and I.
We got enough.
We got enough for Darion Kendrick. We kind of took a little bit of a reach. We got a little bit lost there.
I mean, overall draft grade though, B+. I feel pretty good about that.
And if we didn't get that F from Darion Kendrick, it's probably an A+.
Probably an A, yeah.
But let's go over it. Round 2, pick 39. We take Jalen Petrae from Baylor. We love that pick. Jake, you would also grade that an A.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, he's graded as a first-round talent. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Round 2, pick 48, Christian Watson at North Dakota State. To kind of give a little perspective, we did have John Mechie and we did have Jalen Tolbert available. We chose Christian Watson over both of them. We're given a B for that. I would also rate that sort of like a B plus, honestly, based off the way he's trending. That could be an A if people really do think he's the first round talent that he is vaulting towards at this moment. And then in the third round, I think we see something that I think is very, very likely. We trade our pick 71 to the New York Giants. We get that pick back that we traded for Justin Fields, which would be amazing. And we move down to 81 and we receive pick 112 in the fourth round. And then at pick 81, we take a fan favorite for the Chicago Bears fan base from Chattanooga, Cole Strange, big behemoth, but also an athlete, very explosive. That was graded a B. Jake, what would you grade that?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it was good value. It was about where he was ranked. So, yeah, I mean, to get him, a guy of his size and explosiveness, 1,000%, I think that was great.
And then as a surprise to absolutely nobody, we take Justin Ross, wide receiver at pick 112 in round four that we got from the Giants. Now, this was rated as C+ by PFF, but I think it's because Jake and I are higher on Justin Ross than basically everyone.
Well, I think it's also the injury concerns because
right.
you don't know exactly who he's going to be. So I think that kind of weighs into that grade as well.
And I think if you're getting Justin Ross anywhere earlier than like a late fifth rounder, he's going to have that grade because that risk is a factor. Now let's go to pick 148. We got kind of position of need happy here. And we also don't have our full analysis on the guys at that point of the draft. But we like Darion Kendrick from what he did in the biggest moments. We were graded an F with our first pick of the fifth round at pick 148.
Oh, well.
What are you going to do? And then we like Leicester Smith. This is a B+ grade. This is one of our higher graded players. And I think one of our better picks at pick 150, a guy who would pair really well with Cole Strange, who's also a former tight end, very athletic. And then we rounded out with Hassan Haskins, a guy who's done it again in the biggest moments, 5 touchdowns against Ohio State, receiving back, has the ability to come in and be an instant producer, just as Khalil Herbert was last year, assuming Jay Montgomery won't even be here next year, but also, forget about 2023, talk about 2022. Hassan Haskins is a guy that can do it. Overall, Jake, evaluate the draft for us in a couple minutes.
B+ I think is solid. I mean, I don't remember what grade we had last year. We probably should have kept track of that, but B+ is solid. I mean, I think we made a shrewd move with the trade. I think we took a lot of good value, especially at the top with Petrae. I think set us up really good for the rest of the draft. And getting Justin Ross in the fourth, I think was great for us too. So really happy. I mean, if this is how this shakes out, with maybe a better pick at 148 than we did, if this is how this shakes out for the most part, I think most of us, if not all of us, are going to walk away happy.
I mean, the thing that I look at is you fill the two biggest positions. You fill the three biggest position needs with not one but two players: 2 cornerback, 2 wide receivers, 2 guards, running back Hassan Haskins. And Jake, you know what they should do to top it off? 2 days after the draft, go get Tyrann Mathieu and top it off, because there have been a few talks about, hey, you need to get a safety at some point.
Sure.
I think the Bears are the front runner to get Tyrann Mathieu. Makes too much sense with Ryan Poles, and I think if they don't get one at this point, or in the draft, that they'll get him post-draft. So
the longer he waits, the more that price drops.
Yeah. And look, this might not be the exact way I put together my personal mock. Jake and I's personal mock will come out next Wednesday in our final show before the NFL draft, where we'll reveal our personal mocks, probably a shorter episode. And we'll roast each other for what we did. But Jake, I think this could be pretty damn close to my personal mock.
Yeah. I mean, if this is like, I would love if this is how mine had turned out.
Yeah. So we'll see. We're not going to get it right. No one ever gets it right. I made this case to somebody. I think it's just as hard to get a perfect mock draft as it is to pick the winner of the NCAA or to pick a perfect NCAA March Madness bracket. Statistically, that's probably honestly, statistically, it might be harder.
Yeah,
it probably is harder.
Probably.
If you think about the number of players and the number of
variables, trades, stuff like that.
So
yeah.
But this is the year we get it right, Jake. Okay. This is the year.
Yeah.
But no, man, that was fun.
We'll circle back.
That was fun, dude.
No, this was good. I mean, we talked about it last week. This is always a fun episode. We always have a good time doing it. So it's always fun to kind of think of what the future could look like. But yeah, no, this was good. And like Kevin said, we'll be back next week. We'll kind of run through it again a little bit after we know a little bit more. Maybe we'll get a guest. We'll see what happens. We'll see what we can wrangle up.
I do have news on that. Next week, we might not have a guest on Wednesday, but on Friday, we will be doing a live draft show, Bears Nation podcast, with Jarrett Payton and a former player. So It's going to be really, really fun on Friday for those 2 first-round picks. We're going to do that here on StreamYard. We're going to broadcast that live, and we're going to have Jarrett on here for some analysis and a former player. Jarrett is just about all in on it. Hopefully he doesn't bail on us to go do whatever he needs to do. I mean, he has bigger priorities than us.
He's got to take that smile to TV,
he's
possibly.
Got to take that smile to TV, but that's going to be a lot of fun. But we'll be here on Wednesday for our personal mocks, and then Friday for that live show. So a big week coming up, Jake. It's going to be a lot of fun here for us at Bears Nation Podcast.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. It'll be a lot of fun. So stay tuned. Guys, we will see you next Wednesday and next Friday for the draft. As always, we love all the listeners, all the viewers, all the commenters. You guys rock. So until next Wednesday, next Friday, we will see you. Stay safe. And as always, bear down.
Bear down.
Bye.